Thank you very much, and it's great to be here, and welcome to Glasgow and to COP for those of you who are visiting this fabulous city. The weather's always like this, and everywhere looks as beautiful in Glasgow as the quadrangle in Glasgow University, so just bear that in mind. It's been a real interesting week and a half so far. I've been, as you can imagine, hugely engaged in many conversations in the Blue Zone, but very much on the fringes of that. And it's absolutely true to say, and you recognise that this COP is different, and this COP is the COP where private sector finance has got engaged, come to the party, and is really committed to making the difference. And that is a theme that has really run through all of the conversations I've had over the last week and a half. I don't need to remind you that we've really got we're at the cusp of a very dangerous situation. This is the world's best last chance to deliver a global deal that supports the aspirations of the Paris Agreement to make that lasting impact on climate change before it's too late. The science is absolutely clear, and we've seen all those graphs all heading in the wrong direction. So the scale of the challenge, I think, is well understood, and it's about what we can do together and the leadership we can provide to make a difference. From Scotland's perspective, I think we've been very clear as well. We were the first country in the world to recognise and articulate the fact that we are in a climate emergency. We have made great progress, not only in terms of our policy platform and our focus politically, but also very much in terms of what we've delivered on the ground. We're in a position now where this year 100% of Scotland's electricity is generated from renewable sources, which is something we're very proud of, and we turn our attention to decarbonisation of heat and transport. And we're also, as you know, a world leader in the technology that powers that renewable revolution, with our leading position, particularly on offshore wind and floating offshore wind. And as an engineer, I find this stuff fascinating. The scale and the power of it is just immense, but also on a whole range of other technologies on tidal, marine, and so on. And the reason I talk about that is not just because it's important from a technology point of view to deliver the innovation that's going to make the difference, but because those are the opportunities that are requiring the investment that so many in this room and around the pensions industry bring to the table. Of course, Scotland's got a long history in terms of the pensions industry. The first mutual life assurance office in 1815 in the Royal Exchange coffee rooms. And in terms of where we are today, Edinburgh is the biggest employment centre in the UK for jobs in the pension sector, and our leading position in asset management, insurance, investment is well recognised, and alongside that a hugely innovative fintech sector, one of the leading sectors in Europe. This COP, as I said before, has really brought to the fore and highlighted the need for private sector investment to deliver the trillions required to really make the change that is required to allow that technology and that innovation to be rolled out at scale to deliver renewable energy right across the planet. And in Scotland, we're absolutely keen to be right at the centre of that journey, working with the sector to make sure that we're able to support in every way we can to deliver that transformation. Because from a pension sector point of view, again, you're very well aware of this, it's not just about the money, it's about those risks that you see on a daily and ongoing basis in an ever-increasing forms. The real threat to the financial system as a consequence of the uninsurability of many of the challenges that are happening as a consequence of climate change. And those climate-related risks really impact on the investment that you manage and steward for the pension holders. So the resilience and the ability to manage those climate-related risks within the industry is of huge importance, not only to the sector, obviously, of the sector, but to the entire economy. So we're faced with a situation where we've got these tremendous and accelerating risks, but also those opportunities that lie there. And it's understanding and unpicking our way through that and bringing that investment at scale to bear on those opportunities. That is the trick that we've got to pull off. I know that many of the organisations represented here today are looking for investable and sustainable projects with good long-term rates of return. And I know that businesses and investments that are ESG aligned are now outperforming those that are not. And that is, if you think about it, a dramatic change. Even a few short years ago, ESG investment was seen as something where you did it because it was the right thing to do, and you took a financial hit very often as a consequence of that. That's completely flipped now, as we know. Those organisations, those investors that aren't investing in ESG, and particularly on the transition to net zero, risk losing out and missing on those opportunities. Not just because that's where the big returns will be in the future, but very much because that's where investors are demanding that you, and consumers are demanding that you invest their money. And of course, the whole economy depends on pensions, and a net zero pensions industry is a fundamental part of helping to shift the economy towards protecting the planet. So it's not just about investing for those financial returns, it's very much about investing in a future on a planet that's worth living on. And we recognise and acknowledge the great work that's been done by the sector so far, with 85% of UK defined contribution pension savers in a scheme with a net zero target. And we welcome the commitments made by firms, many represented here today, including Royal London, committed to achieving a minimum 50% reduction in emissions by 2030 and net zero by 2050 across all their investments. And Scottish pension funds are already signing up to the principles for responsible investment and are exercising preference for new investments with positive ESG criteria alongside those sound financial criteria. And the Scottish Government has got clear aspirations for Scotland to become a leading hub in green, ethical and sustainable financial services, and we very much want you to be part of that journey with us. Scotland's already in a strong position to pivot to ESG investment. Scotland-based investment funds manage 11% of the UK's responsible investing market, compared to a 7% share of the conventional market. And our credentials across insurance, pensions, asset management and investment and financial technology, as I said, are very well known. So we're establishing a new industry-led task force to draw up Scotland's action plan to capitalise on the opportunities of financing the global shift to net zero. And this task force will set out the actions Scotland must take to promote and establish our country as a world-leading centre for green and ethical finance. Put it short, we want Scotland to be a superpower when it comes to ESG investment. I'd like to really take this opportunity to thank Jeffy for inviting me to speak at today's event, and on how I see this wider transition to net zero affecting the pension sector here in Scotland, and really acknowledge Jeffy's dedicated net zero pension workstream within the broader Path to COP campaign and its direct call to pension providers to increase emissions, transparency and develop a tangible strategy to set or deliver on net zero commitments. And it's really interesting. I met Omar about 3 years ago, I think, when he came to talk to us about this great idea he had to get Scotland set up as a world leader. I think he described it as the Davos of ethical investment would be here in Scotland, and it's really now of the moment, so ahead of your time, positioned that extremely well, and now as we enjoy COP in Glasgow, we see that work coming to fruition, and Jeffy really at the centre of that ever-increasing web of businesses, investors, funds that are really keen to be part of this journey here in Scotland. And as I said at the time, if we didn't have Jeffy, we'd need to invent it, and that's absolutely increasingly true. Some of the range of policies that the Scottish Government has taken forward in this space are really important as well. We recently published our Global Capital Investment Plan, which is about aligning the opportunities in Scotland to our values-led commitment to a just transition to net zero, working with a pipeline of opportunities, knocking them into shape, kicking the tyres on them, for want of a better expression, to make sure that they're investor ready. We can take them to investors to be able to have a conversation about how they can deploy funds in Scotland across that range of opportunities. Our duty to understand the investment community, both by leveraging the tremendous Scottish financial services sector, but also engaging with investors across a whole range of risk-reward profiles globally, so that we're able to line up those investable opportunities in Scotland with investor most likely to be able to be part of that. And also to provide it on a portfolio basis through our green investment portfolio, which has now delivered £2 billion of investment proposals to the market, with a further £1 billion coming on stream over the course of next year, and already plans to further and dramatically increase that over the years ahead, because that allows investors to de-risk their environment, their investment. You know, government's engaged in that process. You know that we've done a lot of the legwork to make sure those investments are ready, and also because it allows you to invest on a portfolio basis and spread the risk across a whole range of opportunities there. And as part of that work, we're taking forward our Green Market Solutions programme, and that will focus on applying our suite of available incentives to help stimulate private sector investment into major projects and very much into those new technologies, as well as exploring market creating financial and pricing solutions to overcome barriers to private investment, because we see this also as an opportunity for us to be at the centre of developing and implementing and rolling out those financial solutions through our very strong fintech sector as well. And this programme seeks to encourage first-mover investors in key areas like natural capital, heating and hydrogen, areas that Scotland has really world-leading expertise in. And natural capital in particular, I think, an area we're now doing a lot of work on to understand the investable opportunities there, and we will be bringing forward more opportunities in that space in the near future. Scottish Government also liaising with the Scottish Local Government Advisory Scheme Advisory Board, and we've launched consultations on climate risk reporting and ESG standards for those local authority pension funds, in line with the Task Force on Climate-related Financial Disclosures. The name, of course, of the TCFD disclosures is that companies describe the impact of climate-related risks and opportunities on the organisation's business strategy and financial planning. And that consultation will consider possible guidelines for voluntary financial disclosure about climate risk, which will assist local government pension funds in making fully informed choices when deciding on which investments are best aligned with their ESG goals. So, in conclusion, thank you very much for allowing me to be here today to address you and to hear about your ambitions and for underlining the importance of dialogues like today to addressing those big challenges that are facing us in protecting the greatest assets we have, our environment. And as the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said earlier, this year's COP26 in Glasgow will be a make it or break it occasion. And the world will look to governments and very much to the investment community to ensure that we make it. And they will look to us, to people like you and me, for leadership and action on the climate change challenge that affects every person, every community, every business, every investor and every country on the planet. And we are very much up for being part of that journey with you, partnering with you, working together, bringing what we can to the table to help de-risk those investments, working together to share information and opportunities and make sure that together we rise and meet that challenge. And I suppose what I'd like to do is ask the sector, and through this challenge to you, to address what is it that capital and green investment projects in Scotland need to do to enable pension schemes, including LGPS, to invest in those opportunities here. And I look forward to hearing your thoughts and comments on that challenge. Thanks very much for your time today, and as I say, very much look forward to working with you in the weeks, months and years ahead as we meet this challenge head on. Thank you very much.